this verse. And as I have already spoken earlier, that these three verses, the previous verse, this verse, and the next verse, these three verses, when we read them in continuation together, in any phase, in any situation of our life, they can give us so much of hope, so much of solace, so much of strength, that the miserable condition or the reversal or difficult situation in life becomes easily digestible, because these are all facts of life. These are all realities of life, and these are discussed by two transcendentalists, not by some ordinary people like you and me. And these knowledge are meant for our benefit. These are meant for our upliftment. So just to give context to the verse before this verse, which comes 1.5.17, Tektva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare. Tektva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare. Bhajan Apakwa Atapate Tato Yadi. Yatra Kova Bhadram Abhud Amushyakim. Kovartha Apto Bhajatam Swadharmataha. And the translation of that verse is, one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. That was the previous verse, and so important. These are transcendental truths. These are truths which we need to be aware of, not for anything else, not for a scholarship or not for erudite scholarship to show someone that I know 1.5.17. But these are eternal truths. This is a verse from Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam is telling that Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanam Bhujam Hare Bhajan Apakvatha Patet Tato Yati. Yatra Kova Bhadram Abhudamushyakim Kovartha to Bhajatam Swadharmata. Even if somebody by some reason, somehow he got inspired and he takes up to this devotional service for some time, he could not reach to his maturity. Apakwa, pakwa is maturity. It could not reach to fruition, completion, and he had to quit his body, he died, or he had to give it for some wrong association. Still there is no loss. Still there is no loss. And there is no gain for someone who's engaged in all his occupational duties completely to the best of his ability, yet doesn't take up to the devotional service. And just to tell you the purport, because to understand this in our life, sometimes it requires deliberation and elaboration, which Prabhupada does, keeping the verse, the spirit of the verse true and explaining it based on the parampara knowledge. Beautifully Prabhupada writes in the purport. As far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Nobody is free from duties. You see, anybody, even if he doesn't have any relative, he may be, he's just a lone survivor in this material world, is not free from his duty. Everybody has some duty or other to perform. If somebody is in Grahastha ashram or somebody is in, is married and has got dependents, then he has got even more duties. So Prabhupada is saying, as far as the duties of mankind are concerned, there are innumerable duties. Every man is duty bound, not only to his parents, family members, that anyway we know, even to society, to country, to humanity, other living beings, the demigods, etc. But also to the great philosophers, poets, scientists, etc. So we have so many duties. Which duties are we talking about? There may be obligations and duties which we might not be knowing, but we owe. We owe to the philosophers, we owe to the scientists, we owe to other human beings, to demigods, for getting so many things from them. So that is why Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, it is enjoined in the scriptures that one can relinquish all such duties and surrender into the service of the Lord. Actually, Prabhupada is not just making a false statement just like that. This is actually a quotation from Bhagavatam. It's mentioned in Bhagavatam elsewhere. Very, very interesting verse. Devarsi bhutapta nrinam pitrina nakinkaro nayam rinicha rajan Sarvatmanaya Saranam Saranyam Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam. Devarsri Bhutabta Nrinam Pitrinam. We might be knowing about some people to whom we have some duties or responsibilities. But there are many Devarishis, Bhuta, Apta. Bhuta is of ordinary living entities, friends and relatives, Nrinam, the ordinary men, Pitrinam, our forefathers, Nakinkaro, Nayam Nrinicharajan, Sarvatmanaya Saranam Saranyam Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam. This verse actually says, if you have given up all your material duties and you have taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Gato Mukundam Parihritya Kartam. If somebody has taken the shelter of lotus feet of Mukunda, actually the meaning of the word Mukunda means who gives liberation, who can award liberation. That Lord, his lotus feet, if you have taken shelter, who offers shelter to all. Since the Lord is offering shelter to all, you are not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. One who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. This was the verse that is there previous to this. And this verse we've been seeing in the last class. I will not go into the verse understanding of the verse because we have already spent some time in this. But I will just quickly, summarize I'll chant the words, and I would request you also chant this verse because these verses they have so much of depth in them. Tasyeva heto prayate tatvo vidu na labhyate yad bhramatam uparyadha talabhyate dukkavad anyatah sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. And we had seen in the last time in our discussion, as per the translation, I had highlighted this: persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined. Mind you, actually, because everybody considers himself to be intelligent. Everybody thinks he's also has got some philosophy of life. He's philosophically inclined. But persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined, because others don't do this, what Bhagavatam is telling to do. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. Just to summarize our understanding of this verse, like nobody in this world wants miseries, and the miseries come in due course of time. Kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. In due course of time, miseries do come in some way or other. There is no one who's exempt from this. There is no exemption or no exception to this. Like miseries come, this verse is telling, similarly, every one of us have got a finite quota of happiness, sukha, which is derived from sense gratification. That is also fixed. That will anyway come. Like miseries are coming, the sukha is also going to come. Don't endeavor for this. Even if we go to the Brahmaloka, to the bottommost planet, this is available. This is available to all yonis, to all the living entities. But in this human form of life, endeavor for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable, anywhere else, even if you travel up and down. Only a person who's actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end. That's what this verse says. And in the last class, we had actually just spent time on the first line of the purport. That itself took away so much time. But as I said, that was all worth spending time and understanding how Prabhupada is writing that every man, everywhere, is trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. So you see, every man, everywhere. So this is no exception. And yet they're trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment by various endeavors. Everyone is looking for that. And what is wrong with that? We went through this. They're trying to obtain the greatest amount of sense enjoyment. whatever sense enjoyment they have, they're not satisfied with that, and they're trying to have bigger sense enjoyment. And then we saw all this in the last class. We spoke about the forest of material enjoyment. We went through this verse, and we saw from Bhagavad Gita how if somebody is attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya, Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya apahrata chetasa vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho nabidhiyate. Bhoga is enjoyment and Aishwarya is opulence. If somebody gets attached to this, even if he understands the miseries of this material world, but he is attached to these two things, Bhoga and Aishwarya. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya apahrata chetasa. Chetasam, the intelligence is stolen, is hijacked, which the person doesn't know. It happens very subtly, very invariably when somebody is too attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya. What happens because of that? Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. The resolute determination or the idea that I should attain Krishna, that I should endeavor to go for that, will not come. Samadho na vidhiyate. He cannot get that resolute determination. So we've seen all these things, and this also is a verse that we saw from Vidyapati, one of the Vaishnava poets, where he writes, Tatala saikate bari bindu sama, Tatala saikate bari bindu sama, Sutta mita ramani samaj, Tatala saikate bari. Imagine it's a hot, scorching heat in a desert, and you are traveling for a long time, completely exhausted, thirsty, fully dry, body is, it's heated up. Somebody comes with an assurance, with a promise, I have water, I'll give you water which can quench your thirst. You just go running towards that person who's promising like that, and he gives you exactly one drop of water. Drink, fulfill your thirst, enjoy in this life. You take that water, and then again, it's over, and you hanker for more, but there is no more available. That is what this material world is. Tatala saikate bari bindu sama. This happiness that we are getting, Prabhupada is saying material, mixed happiness and miseries are the two features of material world. We have some happiness, but that is mixed. That happiness is temporary, that is impermanent. And it doesn't give that lasting happiness which we all hanker for. But the material world packages it, the material nature packages it so wonderfully. Sutta mita ramani samaje, yes, with friends, relatives, sutta mita ramani. A nice packaging and it is given to you. Yes, you can enjoy, you can indulge. But it is like tatala saikate bari bindusam. We've seen this also in the last class. And we discussed this verse also from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says, Maya mukdha jiver nahi swata Krishna gyan, jiver kripaye koila Krishna veda purana. Maya mukdha means the person who is enchanted by this illusory energy, who's completely captivated by the spell of material energy. Maya mukdha jiver nahi swata Krishna gyan. Swata, naturally, automatically, we're not inclined for this. We don't know who we are. We just want to, because we are so enchanted and captivated, and our intelligence is stolen. So we think this is what it is. Just live life, work hard, and indulge in sense gratification. Little we realize that this business is creating reactions which is binding us. That is why Jivera Kripaya Koile Krishna Veda Purana. Out of great compassion, the Lord has manifested this Veda Purana. He's given this Vedic literature, and it supplements the Puranas. We had also seen this verse, and this is the starting point for today's verse. Santo Dishanti Chakshumsi Bahirarka Samuttitaha Devata Bandhava Santaha Santa Atmaham Evacha. Very, very important verse actually. Very important to know and understand this verse, because this verse comes in Bhagavatam, and it's a beautiful analogy given here. If we want to see anything in this material world, anything we want to see, we need to have light first. We need to have the sun. Sun should be shining. Imagine if it is dark, pitch dark in the night, and you have to go out and walk from one place to another. How difficult! And you have no access to any light. You just can't see anything. Santo disanti chakshumsi bahir arka samuttitaha. Like the external objects, bahir, external place, external people, anything which is external, bahir, we want to see. We need arkaha. Arka is sun. The sun should be shining in the sky. And how it should be shining? Samuttitaha. It should be shining completely, whether it is full glories. blazing, it should shine. Then only I can see. Otherwise, if it's just faint also, the sun is not present or something, the visibility goes down. Bahirarka samuttitaha. Santo dishanti chakshumsi bahirarka samuttita. This is for external objects, for external people, for external things which are available in this material world. But if you want to see another world, internal world, you want to understand who you are, you want to understand the absolute position of this material world and yourself. Santo disanti chakshumsi. Santo is the devotees. The knowledge of Veda and Purana is available, but you need to have someone who can show you. And this is the Bhagavatam. This is Krishna before leaving. He is giving this instruction to Uddhava. My devotees, as Krishna is telling, bestow divine eyes, whereas the sun allows only external light. And that only when it is risen in the sky. My devotees are one's real worshipable deities and real family. They are one's own self, and ultimately they are non-different from me. These are all very, these are confidential instructions and the final instructions given by Krishna before he leaves. Santo disanti chakshumsi. Continuing on the same line, that this divine vision has to be bestowed on us to see things as they are and not what we want to see. Because always we tend to ignore certain things. We tend to ignore the miseries in this material world because our eyes are always tainted with a filter. When we are seeing with that filter, it looks promising. It looks glamorous. It looks attractive. Sutta Mita Ramani Samaja, beautiful packaging. We get attracted and carried away by that. But the scriptures are telling, no, open your eyes and see things as they are. Don't just try to, don't be fooled by all this this propaganda, this promise, this glamour. Don't get carried away by that. And to continue in that same line, Bhagavad Gita actually talks about culture of knowledge. These are very interesting verses in Bhagavad Gita, which comes in the 13th chapter. In the items of knowledge, Krishna says these items, he lists these items. And what are these items? Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam saucham sairyam atma vinigdha indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosanudarshana. And then it goes, asaktir anavisangaha putradara grihadishu nityam cha samachittatvam istanitto papattishu. So these are 5 verses together. Mai chananya yogena bhaktirabhya vicharini vivikta desa sevitam haratir jana samadhi adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartham darshanam eta jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ato anyatha. So this verse, which comes in Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter, which is called the items of knowledge, is very, very important to know and understand, because Krishna in this verse is telling that these are called culture of knowledge. These are the 18 symptoms, and now these 18 symptoms are wonderfully described by Prabhupada in the purport. So these 18 symptoms, as advised, these are called the items of knowledge, right? 8 to 12. This is the way to culture knowledge, the real spiritual knowledge. And if you go through this verse, and if you take these verses to your heart, one can never become wise. What exactly spiritual knowledge is? What is the development of that divine vision which makes us see things as they are in a very naked way? So that this verse has to go in our heart. So in order to create the wisdom inside us, we must try and we must try to understand, read this verse very sincerely. Actually, we should be eager and hankering to know what are the items of knowledge. It should not be pushed on us. Nobody should push us, but it should be our jigyasa. It should be a natural inquiry within us. How a person who is wise, what are his symptoms? How does he work? Otherwise, this is, people are usually attached for working hard for money and sense gratification. That's the usual thing. But, the scriptures, our acharyas, especially Srila Prabhupada, he had an earnest desire for us to see this. That's how he has written this. Vyasa Dev Narada Muni, they all had that compassion in their heart. They want us also to see this. So when we try to understand in that way, when we see this verse very closely, and you can see that there is one line in this verse which is saying that how sense gratification should not be practiced. This was the second verse, Indriya Teshu Vairagyam. One should have a natural detachment for sense gratification. This is an items of knowledge. Anahankara eva cha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosa anudarshana. This material world, we all have to go through this janma mrityu jara vyadhi, as it is mentioned in the purport. Nobody is exemption from this, no exception. Unfortunately, nobody accepts this. Nobody is able to see this as really problem. Dukkha dosa anudarshanam. See this through the eyes of the jnana chakshu. One day we all are going to die. One day we are all going to be old, inactive. We don't have the bodily strength or the mental strength to do things that we were doing. We will go through diseases, and this is all going to happen. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosa anudarshanam. These 18 items, if we pay attention to, we will actually understand what Krishna is trying to say. What is the symptom of a person who's wise? What are the symptoms? What are the items of knowledge? Continuing on the same line, Bhagavatam gives this wonderful analogy, and these analogies are so important to know in life. And this analogy maybe is irrelevant for someone, because if you have not seen this lantern, lanterns are something which used to, I have seen, I've used them myself, but if you have not used them, when there is a power cut, especially in India, we used to have this lantern. But a typical characteristic of a lantern is, I don't know if you have seen that glass that you are seeing here, sometimes that glass becomes blackened. Have you seen that? The glass becoming blackened. And when the glass is blackened, even though the flame, the light is there inside that, it is the illumination or the luminescence, what it can provide, it becomes obstructed because the glass is black, even though the flame is burning there. Bhagavatam very wonderfully gives this analogy, especially Prabhupada. This analogy comes in Bhagavatam. It says that actually, when the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. So you see how if the mind is too absorbed with sense gratification, when the lamp is, when the mind is absorbed with material sense gratification, it causes suffering. What Prahlad Maharaj says, Yan Maithunadi Grahamedi Sukham Hitucham. And he says, Bahu Dukkha Dukkham. It's not just miseries, it invites lots of miseries. So absorbed in sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. I want you to, because we are discussing, so we are moving ahead, and we spoke about Govidaha, person who are philosophically inclined and actually intelligent. So they need to have that jnana chakshu, which comes by associating with devotees, or by reading the scriptures, like the items of knowledge which Krishna is describing in Bhagavad Gita. These are items of knowledge, he says. So what are those items of knowledge? Knowing them properly, and Prabhupada explains them very, very carefully and meticulously, each of these words in the purport. So what happens when a person is philosophically inclined or intelligent? He does something which ordinary people do, and he doesn't do that. Where ordinary people are very actively involved, and the philosophically inclined and the intelligent person doesn't do that. So to give you that example, I want to illustrate you with this picture. Imagine somebody has asked you to go to a multi-story building to the top floor. Maybe you had nice lunch, or you had some good food, or maybe you didn't have anything and you still have to go. It's part of your job or requirement. You have to go, and you go there and you see that There is a huge staircase, and you have to climb up. Slowly, you have to climb up. And you climb up, you look up, and how far it is, you're looking up, and it looks very high, and somehow you're you're taking the help of those railings so that you get some support and comfort, and you go. Suddenly, one person, one clever person, one intelligent person comes from somewhere, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing? You're taking the steps, but there is a lift available here. Why don't you come in the lift?" You say, such a great relief. My God, there is a lift available. I never knew this. So you maybe that time, if you have reached close to that the desired the destination of yours, the floor that you wanted to, maybe you will not take lift. But if you have to go again, you will take the lift. But imagine if there is a lift man who's seated in that lift, a lift operator who's operating the lift. Every day he's going up, he's coming down. He's going up many times, not just once. Going up, coming down, going up, coming down. That's the two business. You'll just keep pressing the buttons, people are going up. There are some lifts which will have lift operators. Now, will the lift operator be feeling so happy? My God, what a lift I have. I'm going up. There is no efforts in this, and I'll enjoy it. I'll go up. Now, okay, what to do? I'll come down. Worse is if that lift man, the lift operator, starts thinking, can there be anything that I can do in this lift by which the lift goes faster? Fat, it goes, and thud, it comes down. He's spending his time and energy in that. How can I go up quickly and come down quickly? How colossal waste of time that is. After all, what is the purpose? This lift is meant, it cannot go in sideways, right? You can't take a lift from one place and say, today I'll go in this way. You can't do that. It has to go up and down. In that, if somebody thinks, how can I go fast and how can I come down fast? It's a waste of time. So that is what this verse is saying. Tal labhyate yad brahmatam upari adha. Why are you wandering in this material world, trying to work hard to increase your sense gratification, or in changing your position from this planet to another planet by doing some charity, by doing some ritualistic activities, and then go up and then again come down? What's the point? Don't waste your time. Don't waste your human life in this. It is absolutely not worth it. Lifts are only meant to go up and down. There's nothing else that you can do. Somebody is trying to make some comfortable arrangement there in that lift. Let me, anyway, every day I'm sitting here and the liftman thinks, let me have some nice, cushion or a sofa, which will, if at the moment I sit, it should just go down. I should sink in there and I should sit there. But what is the business? You're still going up and down, no? What are you doing there? It is not a place which is meant to permanently, settle down over there. That is why this verse of Bhagavatam is so important. Same line, similar thing, what we are trying to say. Mind you, this verse is spoken by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in every Bhagavatam class. Every time he speaks about this verse, how important this verse must be. This comes in the 11th canto. Worth knowing this verse. You can pay attention. Labdhva sudurlabham idam bahu sambhavante manusyamarthadam anityam api hadhira turnam yateta napatedanu mrityu yavan nishreyasaya vishaya kalu sarvatasya. Labdhva sudurlabham idam bahu sambhavante Manusyam arthadam anityam apiha dhiram turnam yatetana patedanu mrityu yavan nishreyasaya vishaya khalu sarvatah syat. Actually, each word in this verse is important. Labdhva, having obtained, sudurlabham, very rare. Labdhva sudurlabham. Idam bahu sambhavante, after many lifetimes. Bahu sambhavante, so many varieties of living entities. 8,400,000 species we have gone through. My God. Labdhva sudurlabham idam bahusambhavante. And these are not exaggeration. Jalaja Navalakshani. One can go and do research and see how accurate this Vedic information is. After going through all these aquatics, reptiles, insects, trees, birds, beasts, one has got this human form of life. Labdhva sudurlabham idam bahusambhavante. Manusyam arthadam anityam apiha dhiraha. This verse is saying arthadam. Actually, this human form of life is very valuable, very, very, very valuable. Arthadam. Manusyam arthadam anityam. This is not permanent. This is not like, I've got lots of time and I can do anything that I want. No, this is very, very short time that we have. Manusyam arthadam anityam apiha dhiraha. The word that is used there is dhiraha. Dhira is a very important word which is used by Prabhupada. One has to become sober. One has to become sober, because if one is not a dhira, he'll always be agitated, always be disturbed, always be tempted, always be allured, always be attracted. All these temporary things. That's why the words used there is dhiraha. Become dhira. This is such a wonderful gift, rareness of human birth we have got. This verse 11:9-29. And in that, after Bahu Sambhavante, many, many births, we've got this, we've attained this human form of life. And even more lucky, even more fortunate that we are sitting there, wherever, in our positions, we are under the shelter of Prabhupada, we are able to hear this Bhagavatam. What a great rarity of life. And in that also, if we still get distracted here and there, it's unfortunate. It's a very horrible situation. So that is why any book written by Prabhupada, if we read, any book, Bhagavatam, amazing, but any book we read, immediately our mind becomes satisfied. Actually, there is no difference between the literature and Krishna himself. Idam Bhagavatam Namam Puranam Brahma Samhitam. This is not different. This is incarnation of the Lord. Anything related to Krishna is not different from Krishna. And that is why the Maha Mantra that we chant is also non-different from Krishna, and it is so powerful. But look at our unfortunate situation. Durdaiva Midrisham Nanuraga. That verse that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the second verse of Sikshastakam. What is that verse? How does it? What is the starting of that? Anuranga, you're on mute. Nana Makari Bahuda, Nija Sarvas. Right. So Krishna has invested all his potencies and energies in his holy names. And Krishna himself is non-different. But you see how unfortunate is our position. The moment we take up the process of chanting, sitting at one place, first thing happens is we feel drowsy. We doze off. We feel sleepy, or our mind goes somewhere else. It's like sometimes some devotees say it's like radar japa. Something what he's doing, what is going on there, what's happening here, what's going on in all over the world. Japa is also going on, but everything else is also going on. It's really our ill fate, because we don't have belief, we don't have faith, we don't have conviction that Krishna is present in my tongue. Krishna is non-different in holy names. He is right now present in front of me. Had that been the case, we would have not felt sleepy, would have not gone and done something else, because we don't have conviction in that. That we feel chanting of Mahamantra is completely different, and Krishna is also different. He's somewhere in Golok Vrindavan or wherever, I don't know. But this is not the right process. So we have to chant the 16 rounds attentively, offenselessly, with the mood, with the conviction that Krishna is right now present in my tongue. When I am chanting, the holy name is not different from Krishna. How can we feel asleep at that time then? Then in this verse, what this verse is telling very interestingly, the next two lines, is that Krishna, his names, these glories, these are all ever fresh. Nava Yovanam. And communication with the Lord is a reality through transmission of the transcendental sound. This is Bhagavatam's line. Communication with the Lord is a reality through transmission of the sound, through the transmission of the transcendental sound of the different verses and Mahamantra and Pravachan and all these things. This is Krishna. So when we are hearing, when we are reading the verses, when we are chanting Mahamantra, this is a communication with the Lord. This is through the transmission of this transcendental sound. So how fortunate we are. It enlivens us in our body. You may be thinking, I still have Bhoga and Aishwarya, I still have those sinful tendencies. Actually, all the sinful tendencies that we have, all those Bhoga Aishwarya which we have, it is getting reduced. We are able to do whatever we are doing because of whatever inattentive chanting, whatever little Shraddha we have for the Vedic literatures, for hearing, we are able to come to this stage. Actually, when we come together in a program like this, when we discuss Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, it may be the same thing, but the way Prabhupada has spoken, has elaborated and explained in his purports, they appear always new. There is freshness. Same verse of Bhagavatam you take and you hear, but still they make a lot of difference in the heart, because this is not different from Krishna. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, there are 15,000 purports, if not the entire Bhagavatam. He has given, at least he has till the 10th canto, he has given those purports. So wonderful things, so nectarian they are. Labdhva sudurlabham idam bhausambhavante manusyam arthadam nityam apiha dhira. So it's a very difficult to get this human form of life, but it has got that ultimate purpose to achieve. Arthadam apiha dhira, but a person has to become sober. We are never sober. We were never sober to start with. That's why Prabhupada keeps scolding rascals. Actually, we didn't even know how to sleep, how to get up, what time to get up, how to eat, what to eat, how to take prasadam. Nothing was known to us. By following some of these instructions, at least we are getting some taste how to come out of this, materialistic way of life. But the important thing in this verse, which I want you to pay attention to, is that Turnam yateta napated anumrityu yavan. Turnam yateta napated anumrityu yavan. That we are all approaching that final day. And mind you, it comes very, very fast. It just eludes us. We don't realize this, but our time is very finite. It comes very, very fast. Time is faster than what our mind can even think of plans of settling down in this material world. And before that death consumes our existence, we must turnam yateta. Turnam means immediately, and yateta means try. We should immediately try. For what? Immediately we should try to make the best use of our human form of life, this human existence. Otherwise, when it is ending, we don't know. And for sure, that is certain, as sure as death, that is ending. But when is a big question. Maybe after 2 seconds, maybe when we are 50 years old, 100 years old, doesn't matter. The end is bound to come. Dhira Purusa, who's philosophically inclined, who's intelligent, who's sober person, always look the end part of our existence, and because he knows that we have a finite time, whatever period we have at our disposal, turnam yateta, immediately we should start. And this sense gratification, nishreyashaya. In all species, the sense gratification is available. We had the sense gratification. Cow also has a sense gratification. Dog also has sense gratification. In fact, dogs give birth to 10, 12 children at one time. Right? So not like human beings, one child at a time, and then so many painful situation one goes through. Then again, take birth, give birth. So dogs have got 10, 12. But what is the difference? The sense gratification is anyway available in the lower species of life. Dharmena hina pasubhi samana. Without dharma, pasubhi samana. We are not different from the pasus if dharma is not there. That is the main instruction. And if you want to utilize our human form, human existence, then the main problem before is that we are forced. We are forced to act helplessly. So, somebody may say that, why are you leaving us? We are forced to act helplessly, and we are forced to leave this material world. Some near and dear ones may ask us, why are you leaving us? Maybe I don't want to leave really, but I am obliged. I have to go. My time has come to an end. We also don't want to go away from here, but we will be forced to go one day, forced to go away from this place. And one goal we have in front of us, and that is to stop this repetition of birth and death. Because where there is birth, all this following things will follow. If there is birth, you are bound to become old. You are bound to become sick. You are bound to die, right? So this is what Bhagavatam is telling. And this process of repetition of birth and death we go through because of our karma. This karma gives rise to another janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. So then what is the solution? What do we do? And that is, as this verse is telling, that we should take up to this. We should be, without becoming a mad person who's engrossed in this material world, trying to make some arrangements to make this place come. We should take up yateta before even very quickly. We should take up to this process of devotion and be engaged in that till the last breath of our life. But if you really want to understand the process of Bhagavatam, how to cut this vicious cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, what is the process recommended by Srimad Bhagavatam? What is it that I need to do so that I will not go through this cycle of birth and death? Very beautifully, I want all of you to pay attention to this verse. And some of you might be knowing this verse, I'm sure. But this verse comes in the prayers of Kunti Maharani. Beautiful prayer. And if possible, memorize this prayer. Wonderful prayer. You'll see this prayer and understand this verse. So this is actually in Bhagavatam 1.8.36. Shranvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshnasa Smaranti nandanti tabehitam jana Taeva pashyanti achirena tavakam Bhava prabaho paramam padambujam. Actually, we buy some products, we see for some guarantee. Is there a guarantee or a warranty or something like that? This verse is a guarantee. It's a guarantee by Kunti Maharani. This verse has a word which says it's a guaranteed way to stop repetition of birth and death. Shranvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshnasa. Very easy verse to remember if you just understand the meanings. There are 4 words in this line. Shranvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshnasa. Let's understand these words a little more closely. Shranvanti. Shranvanti means to hear. We always hear so many things we want to hear. But here it is said, what is to be heard? What needs to be heard? Shranvanti. Then gayanti, singing. We also sing so many things, so many songs we sing. But here it is particularly said, what should we sing? Chanting is required. Shranvanti, gayanti, grinanti. Grinanti means to accept. Not just sing for the sake of singing, not just hear for the sake of hearing. Accept this. Shranvanti, gayanti, grinanti, abhikshnasa. Abhikshnasa is a very beautiful word. Always. Continuously. This word, the similar thing you'll find in Bhagavad Gita also. Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhecha. Mai arpita mano buddhir. So there he's saying. Tesham satata yuktanam, always engaged in devotional service. Manmana bhava mad bhakto, continuously one has to do this, always. So this is the meaning of the first line. Shranvanti, gayanti, grinanti, avikshnasa. These are the 3 things to be done, recommended by Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Bhagavatam is saying that this has to be done continuously. And then Bhagavatam goes to the next line where it is telling Smaranti, Nandanti. 2 more things are given. Smaranti and Nandanti. Nandanti means taking pleasure. and smaranti means remembering, right? We should remember, we should take pleasure. Where? Tabe hitam janaha. Smaranti nandanti tabe hitam janaha. Persons, devotees who are interested to hear about Krishna, who are interested to chant about Krishna, to accept the supremacy of Krishna continuously, to remember continuously, and who take pleasure in the association of the people or the association of the devotees who are chanting the glories of the Lord. If one does that, right, the 5 things, Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Avikshnasa, Smaranti, Nandanti, Tabe Hitam Jana. These are the 5 things. If one does that, Taiva Pashyanti Achirena Tavakam. Bhagavatam's guarantee. Taiva means those people who cover these 5 things. Eva means certainly. Tavakam means you are guaranteed. What is the guarantee? And Bhagavatam will not give a false guarantee. Like many times in the material world, we get those guarantees. This is guarantee of Bhagavatam. You see the material guarantee, this machine has a guarantee for 12 months. And if you come back after 12 months, machine is gone. Maybe many times before that, they cheat us, they deceive us. But Bhagavatam will never do that. Bhagavatam is saying that if you follow these 5 things, definitely, certainly, you will pashyanti, you will see. Achirena, chirena means delay. Achirena means without delay, without further delay. Taeva pashyanti achirena tavakam. What are you going to see? Last word is padambujam, the 4th line, last word. Padambujam. Padam means the lotus feet. Pada means the feet, and ambujam means the lotus flower. Immediately one will see the lotus feet. It is guaranteed. Then if you see the lotus feet, the first word in the 4th line describes, it very nicely says, what will happen? He's saying, Bhava Prabhahu Paramam. Bhava means referring to these 4 kinds of material existence. And that guarantees Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, that birth, death, disease, and old age. Uparamam ceases, completely ceasing. One will cease the vicious cycle. So if just one follows these 5 things, if you do that, you will continuously see the lotus feet of Lord. And if you see the lotus feet of the Lord continuously, then automatically one's Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi will be completely stopped. This is the recommended process of Bhagavatam. Actually, what needs to be done in our life is not that we have to do a lot of changes or anything of that sort. The only thing is when we engage Taiva Pashyanti, that when we come together in these programs, and of course we would like to do this every time, but for a Grihastha life, for a person who's in the Grihastha ashram, it is very challenging, very, very difficult. Even to follow 16 rounds of chanting is so difficult. Getting up in the morning and doing so much of work, then hearing from the boss, meeting the expectations, taking care of the family, even for a mother also, so many things to be taken care of. That is why it's a life of responsibility. And if in that life of responsibility one becomes careless, one becomes little lax or little slackened, very difficult. Sometimes people say, we don't get even a chance to read, or we don't get even a chance to hear. Unfortunately, when we come for association or there is an opportunity, even in that time also, if we are not attentive, if we are not careful, then how unfortunate our life is, how unfortunate our situation is. So Tayeva Pashyanti Tavakam Padambhujam. So they see the lotus feet of the Lord. And when that happens, then Bhava Pravaho Paramam. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, this vicious cycle is completely cut. And there is no more Janma. There cannot be, and if there is no Janma, then there is no more death, there is no more diseases, there is no more old age. I just want to mention one more point before we close. The way to come out of this material rut, having got this human form of life, Arthadam, Anityam, Arthadam, and very soon we have to be engaged in devotional service. The important thing is spiritual progress is bound to be there. It's certain, it's a guaranteed thing. That's the force with which we have to drag ourselves out of this material rut. Somehow, that's the rut where we are getting rotten. Unless we drag ourselves out, it is very difficult to place ourselves on the transcendental path. But this simple process will drag us out from this material platform and force us to take up to this transcendental path. As soon as we utter Krishna's names, we don't belong to this material world because we are directly in touch with Krishna. And as soon as the book comes in our hand, any book, small, big, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Immediately we are dragged out of the material platform. Immediately. It doesn't matter what book of Prabhupada you are holding in your hand. We are forced to be in spiritual platform. And as soon as we are on the spiritual platform, then we do not have to worry at all. Sadhavo hridayam mashyam. Krishna says in Bhagavatam, Sadhavo hridayam mashyam. Sadhavo hridayam mashyam. Sadhunam hridayam tvaham. This is in the 9th canto. 9th canto, somewhere in the 4th chapter or something. Sadhavo hridayam mahyam means I am always in the sadhu's heart. And then he says that madanyat tena jananti. They don't know anything apart from me. And naham tebhyo managapi. I also do not know anything else apart from them. So if one wants to recognize the supremacy of Krishna, then this is the process. Shrinvanti, gayanti, grinanti, avikshnasa, smaranti, nandanti, tavehitam jana. This process has got to be followed. And don't commit the mistake that this process is different from Krishna. No, the process itself is Krishna. And that is why we sometimes ignore this process in this mistake that, that this is different from Krishna and we do something else. We don't attend Manglarti, or we don't read properly, or we don't attend the deity greeting, or attending Bhagavatam class, or maybe chanting properly. So it is good to go through this struggle of this, going through this process of doing as Kunti Maharani is telling. And then, rather than, suffer in this material world, in this rut of material world, we should come out of this. So these are some of the points from this verse. I will stop here and see if you have any question or comment.
So, Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know the question is exactly relevant to the verses which you mentioned, but so you mentioned, and I have heard many times that this literature itself is Krishna. The Naam Prabhu, his name itself is Krishna. Name and Krishna is no different. That's absolute. But what I don't understand, that if even a small child tells me that 1 plus 1 is 2, I listen from my ears and immediately accept it. My mind responds, accept it. Even after, even child, or even sometime again somebody says, I will accept it. But even after listening from very learned person again and again, from anywhere, even very scholar, that Krishna and his name is no different, but still mind doesn't accept it. So, what is the, why it happens? Literature is Krishna, but even after listening again and again, it doesn't accept, we don't accept it, or I don't accept it. What is the, where is the missing link?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that's why the verse of Kunti Maharani is telling Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava. Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti. Grinanti is accepting. Acceptance doesn't happen because of our strong association with this material body. We think this is what it is, and there is a further philosophy which develops associated with our identification of material body. I think I am this body. This body is going to perish, and I will, that's all my life is. And my family members and relatives, these are the only things that I have. I have to take care of them. I'm duty bound to take care of them. My life is going to be ending in that. This is very typical and very, I would say this is what all of us do, all of us think. But this attachment, this understanding, this illusion, this covering of our true identity gets cut, gets removed By the mercy of spiritual master, by the mercy of this transcendental knowledge. You may not. It's not a, like you said, 1+1 = 2. This process is not something. It's not like, you can't say this is how it will work for everyone. It doesn't, because there is a voluntary surrender involved in this, and there is a mercy of the Lord which we have to make ourselves qualified. But we can't say it's like, you go to a visa sanctioning officer, and you cannot say, I have got everything right here, you should grant me visa. It should happen for everyone in the same way. No, it is not guaranteed. It is given. You need to have everything ready, but still visa granting is not, in your hand. It has to be granted. The Lord or the spiritual master has to grant that. But that doesn't mean that they are very cruel, or they're not understanding our position. They don't see our suffering, and they want to delay it for someone, and they don't want to give it to someone. It is not like that. It is because our lack of complete surrender and faith in the words of the scriptures. I still want to use my material intelligence. I want to have some other ideas and concepts, and try to question, to defy, to defend my ideologies. That's how this things don't go. One is not very simple at heart. You see, I want to tell you, this is very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. If you see Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna begins to speak in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, before that Arjuna has spoken so many reasons for not following the words of Krishna, not about fighting, not following the instructions of Krishna. He has given strong, rational, powerful reasons. In our lives also, we have all those strong, powerful reasons which hold us back in surrendering to Krishna, in accepting the instructions left behind by Krishna. We don't take it because of the context may be different, but the arguments are similar in our mind. Sometimes it is compassion on somebody else, enjoyment, fear of enjoyment, what will happen, all those sinful reactions, indecision, all those things which Arjuna is telling. When he began speaking all those things, and he decides to voluntarily become a disciple of Krishna, that Krishna begins to speak. And what does Krishna speak at the beginning? How does Krishna convince him? The first thing he says, first thing, Asocyan anvasochastom pragyavadamscha vasase gatasun agatasumscha nanusochanti pandita. Actually, you are talking big words. You are saying so scholarly things. You are giving all these reasons, but you are lamenting for things which is not worthy of lamentation. Asocyan anvasochastom pragyavadamscha vasase gatasun agatasumscha nanusochanti pandita. It's a very powerful instruction. Actually, we need to see these are instructions to dispel the darkness of ignorance of a person who's confused. All of us are like Arjuna. And how does Krishna build up this argument? And then what does he say? Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. What does that mean? That means Krishna is telling that we were present in past, we are present now, and we will be present in future. That means if our 50 years of existence that we have in this body, in this material world, before that also we were present. Natvevaham, not just me, everybody. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. Our existence is not limited to this material world, to this finite body. We were present before this, and once the body is finished, I will continue to remain in this. And then he's telling dehinosmen yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namushyati. Dehino, there is a dehi and deha, there is a distinction, there is a difference. That dehi inside the body is eternal, and it is changing body continuously. From dehinosmen yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara, from kaumaram, from a young age, from childhood to a young person to an old man, we all go through this transformation. Tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra. So the word dhira is used. So the reason we are not able to accept, not able to see, not able to understand is because our own false ego, our own material way of thinking, materialistic life comes into picture, comes comes in the way as an obstacle. That is why it is nothing to. This is what we were. This is how we have been brought up. That is why one has to read the scriptures very, very submissively, scrutinizingly, and attentively. Shushrushamana, Shraddhadana, Shushrushamana, these are the words used. In a challenging spirit, in a spirit which is saying, I know everything, and based on my intelligence, I will see whether this is right or wrong, it will not work. It has never worked. Seeing it, sushrushamana shraddhadhana. So there is a way to acquire this knowledge. There is a way to see things. Otherwise, we will remain in this material world. We will remain as per our own mind intelligence way, the way it is working. I will consider some things to be important. Some things are to be taken care, and I will continue to live in that. If you want to see, as Bhagavatam is telling, and repeatedly, the qualification of a hearer, the qualification of a reader, the qualification of a sadhaka is stressed. How you can acquire, these are mysteries. These are things which are required to unravel the mystery. You need to have these qualifications. Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita mentions, Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hi etaduttama. Because you are my devotee, you are my friend, I'm revealing this to you. So these things otherwise will remain. It's not just some text that we are reading. It is not some books, some pages that we have to finish. These are transcendental revelation. We can reveal, it will be revealed to us in our heart. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakasito, provided we have the necessary qualifications. So that is in one way the answer. I don't know if it helped you or not, but what it means is, even though the knowledge is available, accessing the knowledge requires some qualification. And that qualification is being non-envious of Krishna, being Shraddhadhana, having faith in the scriptures, and accepting the words of the spiritual master. Does that help, Prabhu?
Partially, Prabhu.
No problem. Partially also is fine. It takes time. I'm happy with it. Partially. Any other question? Any other thoughts anybody has?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So I was asking last week.
Yeah. Actually, I was in a class, so I was not able to. Yeah. No, then I joined late only. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. So, Prabhu, but you were talking about the verse given by Kunti Maharani. So, but as you were also mentioning that it's very difficult to practice, especially when we are in Grahasthashram, because we have a lot of responsibilities, so on and so forth. So, how do we actually balance it, or like we have to do our responsibilities, and nowadays we are also going for work, right? Both the man of the family and the wife. So, how do we do this, Prabhu? Practically, how is it possible? Can you please explain?
Very good question. Actually, you see, because a person doesn't have the right goal in life, the purpose in life is not clear.
Okay.
If you have a goal which is different from attaining Krishna, let's be clear, honest. Right? If that goal is something else, then the path is also different, which all of us try to follow. But if the purpose is something else, if I really want to go back home, back to God, it doesn't matter whether I'm in a Grahastha ashram or Vanaprastha ashram, whatever ashram I am in, doesn't matter. So if the end point where I want to go is different, then the path is different. Now, first I need to find out, first I need to ascertain what I want to do at the end of life. Sometimes because of, being in this rut or being in this herd, whatever people are doing, we're also doing that. Oh, why you are doing? Because I saw my colleague also doing, he's also, my friend also, my friend, relatives, everybody is doing, I'm also doing. But what is the end goal? Where you want to go? If the purpose is clear, that leads to priorities in life. If the purpose is not clear, then the priorities are not set. I don't need to tell you what needs to be done. You will think, because your mind will start acting in that direction. Let me have a good solid morning program. Let me spend time with Bhagavatam. Let me spend time with holy names. Let me spend time with deeds. So when the purpose, then it leads to the priorities. Priorities, actually, because of the goal, it actually allows me to put a break. Even if I like something, I dislike something, because my purpose is something, it helps me decide whether I should indulge in these lives or not. If the purpose is not clear, then the priorities will be very different. I can go on doing something without knowing, and the time will also go just like that. So purpose leads to the priorities, and the priorities, once you have decided, then it has to be put into action. Action is also important. Simply thinking is not enough.
Right.
So then the actions, and then you will get the result.
Mm.
So the answer to your question is, sometimes, husband and wife are so busy in their, in one way they're thinking that this is good. If I have money, if I'm working hard, I'll do something, it will help us in future. But what it is doing is, we don't realize sometimes, the babies, some people will have some children, and they're not there to take care of the children. Children are given to some, somewhere in babysitter, or somewhere somebody is taking care of them. Lacks initially the child needs a lot of security, and it comes from the parents. And if the parents are not available, they give it to somewhere, some daycare, something, and then later on the child comes. So if you don't spend time, quality things at this point in time, later on you have to spend time to correct the whole thing which has gone wrong. Like that in life also, there is a time for everything. I mean, you have to. It's not like, it's a rocket science how we should balance our spiritual priorities and material priorities. We don't do that. Very later stage of life, we regret, and then maybe that time there is no time to do the course correction. It is too late. So why to repent and regret later, when right now our bodies, mind, and all our limbs and organs are acting? Why not spend some time? This will give you, that is what Bhagavatam is saying, this is going to give you eternal benefit. So a person has to be actually intelligent and philosophically inclined to see these things. That is what the verse, the translation was. That is how we should see this, through the eyes of the scriptures, Jnana Chakshu. Then our vision itself will change. Priorities itself will change. Otherwise, that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Good to see that you're able to join, even if it is for some time. And it's wonderful to hear and discuss this Bhagavatam.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has helped in making the classes online, and I think worldwide people will be able to join now. Right? Yes, sir. Thank you.
How's Raghavan?
He's doing good, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. All good with Lord's mercy, Prabhu.
Good to hear your voice, Raghavan.
Good to hear you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other question anybody has? Okay. Ankit, you came up. You have some question or something?
No, Prabhuji, I'm good.
All right. So good to see all of you, and we will meet again next week with the concluding verse in the series, which we need to remember, the third verse, very important verse. Next week we will talk about that. Hope to see you all in the next week. We'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sai Guru Premanand. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.